お前はもう死んでいる。何？もうは匠でギゼブ。
Here's the Spright build I've been using to clap up some Ishizu Tear. Now, it's pretty standard. It's literally just the basic Spright core with a bunch of hand traps and this thing right here at the end of Anubis. The game plan is pretty simple. When you go first versus Ishizu Tear, you set up your standard board with either an IP Masquerena or Mannequin Cat, or if you have a cracked hand, you can set up both. And this is like a double win con against Ishizu Tear. It's like two separate win cons. One is getting out End of Anubis, which is just a Necro Valley like effect that additionally you can give protection with Spright Elf. So stickiness on the field wins the game. Win condition number 2, IP Avramax into IP Masquerena into Avramax with a bunch of hand traps. Ishizu Tear deck has no in-engine outs to Avramax. They have to do some like weird stuff. They either have to draw non-searchable, like non-engine outs, stuff like droplets if they're on that, or kaijus or lava golems if they're on those, which most aren't. Or they have to either get a bunch of bodies on the field and telegraph that they're going into a goddess, or try to take a lot of damage and go into a Zeus after. So in either of those scenarios, if you have any sort of hand trap backing up Avramax, like you can, like in perms or Veilers, you can negate the Zeus, you can prevent them from fusion something to get bodies out. Like they're never gonna get far enough to be able to even threaten a goddess on you with the Avramax out, and then they'll just eventually die out to the Avramax too. And if your hand's good enough, you set up both. You set up Avramax and End of Anubis, and there's like literally they better be on Lava Golem or Sphere mode basically. Which, you know, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen many of those. And the thing is, when you're going first against the typical Ishizu Tear deck, there's actually not too much they can do to stop you. Like, it's a very low chance that they actually draw the relevant disruption to stop you, since a Herald of Orange Light is limited now, and that was basically the best way to disrupt your board. Stuff like Inperm is, if they run that, or stuff like Crow, if they run that, super low impact versus Spright, doesn't really change your board at all. And Halfness. So we have triple Crow, triple Ash, triple Bell, Called by the Grave. There's like 11 cards that basically prevent Halfness from doing anything relevant, from like either resolving it entirely or just preventing the fusion from going out to be able to disrupt you. So Halfness rarely resolves against you when you're going first with a deck that runs this much non-engine cards in it. So like really it's all about, you just gotta dodge the one of Orange Light and dodge like the Maxi, which you know, this is why we run the Maxi minigame outs to that. And short of that, like there's most of the time you're just gonna be able to do your board against the Tear and lock them out of the game. As for going second, you know, because I see a lot of people, their strategy, if they're not on Tear, their anti-Tear builds involve a lot of floodgates, a lot of cards that typically rely on you going first. So obviously this is a build that aims to floodgate the Tear player going first, but we're only committing one main deck slot to it. That's it. That means we have room for when we lose the die roll, which was going to happen a lot. You run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 3 is 18 hand traps going second. And when you're hand trapping Spright, it's all, or hand trapping Sprights, hand trapping Ishizu Tear, it's all about identifying choke points and hand trapping at the right spots. Because if you have 2 hand traps resolve at the proper choke points, then that's usually enough to stop them. Not fully usually, but stop them enough to where you can play the game on your turn. And with 18 hand traps in a 41 card build, if you do the math, that's approximately a 75%-ish chance to open 2 hand traps, not including dupes. Although dupe, DD Crow, and dupe stuff like Veiler's Infirm is fine, it's just duping up on Ashe is bad. Like, Ashe is probably the least impactful of the hand traps you run, but and Maxi exists, so that's... And most of the time, Ashe, you're using on your turn to prevent them from playing on your turn. Like, you're using this to prevent stuff like Happiness, or then, like, God forbid, Herald of Warnley, and then trying to mill with Kelbeck. Like, you want to stop that stuff during your turn a lot of times with Ashe. And generally, the things you want to hand trap when you go second against Tear, the Veilers and Infirms, you want to target the Kitkalos, the first Kitkalos, and then the place where you use stuff like your anti-graveyard hand traps like DD Crow and Ghost Bell depends on what other hand traps you have to pair with. For example, if you have like DD Crow and Bell, or like 2 DD Crows, then you could use these on like both names that attempt to fusion summon, and then you know they gotta open like really cracked to be able to access all 3 names and be able to do something, and still be able to do something after accessing a 3rd name. So like if you just Crow and Bell their first 2 attempts to fusion summon, that's usually enough. If you have like Crow and something like a Infirm, then you can hold off on crowing the first name, wait for them to make Kitkalos, Infirm to Kitkalos, and then when they try to extend further with another fusion summon, that's when you crow their second name, and that's really good. And the thing is, like, Perler Rhino is limited in this game, so thank God. That's probably the most impactful hit that the deck received. And this is the thing that's like the most annoying thing to deal with. Because if you like after you hand trap them, but then this is still up, like you still gotta deal with the removal on your monsters. They have something like a Sulliak. But you know, thank God, you're not gonna see this against you every game. And that's another place, and that's like one of the places where Ashe is like most impactful. Like if you see them infirming, you like Ashe the crap out of that, so that that means they don't have this. I don't think many of them are running multiple field spells, but yeah, you Ashe the crap out of terraforming to prevent them getting the Prograno. If you see a Foolish Goods, they're probably in the Rainbow Bridge bracket. You want to stop that from accessing the Prograno. And any like mill effects, you wanna Ashe too, since like they could potentially mill multiple things like shufflers plus names plus spell traps that will get them more resources. So yeah, that Ashe obviously by itself is not gonna ever do anything remotely to stop them. So that's why we're running the high hand trap count. So you will always, hopefully, even if you have to depend on Ashe, you're drawing with another hand trap. And if you want to go over the deck list, this is pretty bog standard. I cut down the Spright engine to like the absolute minimum of what's needed, plus Pixies, which I'll get to later. But yeah, by minimizing the Spright engine, like, see, I'm not even running Prosperity. I'm leaving the rest of the room for non-engine defensive cards, so just so I can jam in as many hand traps as possible. So that's how you're gonna beat Tear going second, by just hand trapping them. And I absolutely cannot wait for Bistio, so I don't have to get my Ghost Spell chain blocked every other time I draw it. And also, maybe like this slot, you can also run with with Skullmeister. Skullmeister might even be better for Bell. So, like, Skullmeister versus Bell is like Skullmeister can hit the millers like Akito and Kelbeck, whereas Bell cannot prevent them from milling. But Bell has like more applications, like more broader applications, such as being able to hit stuff like Callbys and Crows that everyone's going to be running now, and it also has more utility in like other matchups such as Branded for their Brand in red, or Mathmech for their super factorial. But generally, if you're more focused on tier, and for a deck like this where Crow and Callby are not too impactful against this, except for resolving hand traps, like that's another thing. Bell does help push through your hand traps occasionally. But Skullmeister is might be slightly better against Ishizu Tear just for the being able to prevent the Kelbeck and milling. If your deck doesn't care about Callby or Crow, if you're playing a deck that does care about Callby or Crow, then you might consider Bell over Meister. But I think I might test Meister over Bell in this Spright build later. And the Pixies thing is, so after you summon End of Anubis with Mannequin Cat, preferably End of Anubis, you put it under Elf, which is something I learned to do later on. That way, their only main deck out generally to this card that's in engine is something like a Sulliek, where they'll simply hold on to it and wait for your turn. They'll summon any name, get End of Anubis, and then run over your elf. And then on your turn, they can send their tier name with Sulliek and then negate your End of Anubis. But that's why. So running Pixies just prevents that. Before you summon out End of Anubis, you could Spright Elf, revive your blue, search Pixies, and that prevents them from running over your elf for the turn, and that means your End of Anubis is protected throughout your turn, your opponent's turn, and your turn, so which means they never have an opportunity to Sulliek this, and then if they can't Sulliek this, then they don't have any engine outs to this card, and then you can just beat them down with this and win the game. So yeah, basically this strategy is go first, lock them out of the game with one of your 2 win cons, and going second, you hand trap the hell out of them with your massive amount of non-engine cards. That this is the advantage of Spright, is that this deck is probably the deck that can run the most amount of hand traps, the most amount of non-engine utility defensive cards compared to any other deck, which is why I think it has one of the better matchups against. I think it might be the deck that has the best overall matchup against tier going first and second. Which is like, if you should win most of your games going first, for the mentions stated and for the reasons mentioned, and you're more positioned to go second versus tier than almost any other deck. So yeah, I'll show you what this deck can do. Okay, so this is a game where I was still running Prosperity in my build, but as you can see, my hand was pretty cracked already, so all I did was Prosperity for a Bell, and they ended up not having the Happiness anyways, so cool. Like I said, tier does not run too many defensive cards, so when they inevitably don't draw enough defensive cards against you, you can just do your full combo. I'm going Gigantic into Carrot since we already started with Slop Frog. And I'm just gonna... I don't think I even keep this Carrot on board. I think I use it for Exceeds material. Here's the Math Arena, revive the Ronin Totem. And then go into Mannequin Cat, and now we have double win con versus tier, leaving the zone under Elf free to summon End of Anubis into it for targeting protection against Sulliek. And of course they draw the 1-off Diviner for the Intis, so that is an out, fair. Anyway, we're gonna Smashers away the Elves and the Mannequin Cat, since there's really not an opportunity for us to use Smashers after this. Next we're gonna go into Spright Blue to search the Jet. I'm just waiting for them to commit tier names into my maxi. You know, fair card. We're gonna use Merly and we're gonna bell that. And now I figure it's a good time to, they're down to 2 cards in hand. Figured we go into Avramax and then summon out the carrot for 1 more monster negate. Now we have Crow and Elf in case they want to do anything. They enter battle phase forgetting that they can't attack anything but Avramax, and they try to revive my IP, to which I will negate that, and you know, yeah. Avramax backed by hand traps is a valid win con. You don't even need End of Anubis a lot of the times. We still had a Crow in hand too. We had the red negate, and we have all this follow up to kill them on the next turn. I'm just saying, as the first game that I changed Prosperity out for Pixies, I literally brick in the only possible situation where Pixies would not have done it well Prosperity would have. Like, I'm sick, bro. Anyways, I hastily used the Ash for some reason. You know, you should probably, like, the reason I Ash Foolish Bureau Goods is because I don't want them to get like the Salvation Rainbow Bridge stuff to get like Pearl Rhino, but I mean, you could just Ash that instead. Like, you don't really need to Ash the Foolish Burial Goods, and like otherwise, it's like you're basically just ashing like a Scream or something, which is, I mean, would I have done that anyways? Maybe, but then I would have, you know, made their mills worse by 1 card. So yeah, that's probably like don't shotgun the Ash on Foolish Burial Goods. So just take this as a game where I'm like going second, pretty much, because that's basically what happened. And you know, apparently my opponent bricked too, so it's only fair. Wait, we draw into Swap Rock. Thank God I have a play, and they're gonna have this, and I'm gonna chain Maxi to the have this. They're gonna chain Sulliak for some reason, sending Merly, dumping. All right, so they got Mudora and Agito. The Agito is really annoying because I can't pretend to Crow and figure out Crow the Merly, force them to mill another name. They put back, for some reason, they shuffle back the Merly with Medora. Like, you know, day 2 tier players. Not only does this like increase your chance of whiffing because now you're shuffling back other tier effect that you already used that turn, but you just got rid of a shuffler like for no reason. I realize they have 2, but like I just summoned Swap Rock. Like, there's a chance the shuffler is going to actually be useful as disruption against me, even though it's not likely because Spright plays around shufflers pretty well. But you know, let's say. Anyway, they're gonna send that back, and Agito mills a Kelbeck, and then oh look, what do you know? What do you know? You milled a Merly again. Man, it would be a shame if you didn't use that effect already this turn. And imagine if this was like literally any other tier name instead of the one you put back. Okay, so anyways. Now they do not have a Kelbeck because they already used them with Medora for a turn, you know. Thank you. Now I don't have to worry about shufflers. I'm gonna imperm my Spright out. I'm gonna cross out for infinite impermanence. The 1-of out to imperm. Add starter, some Toad, banish, resummon, go into Mannequin Cat. Now I go into Mannequin Cat before I can't kill them this turn. I don't believe so. I mean, maybe I could have. There might be an overextending line, but I know this line is gonna win me the game anyways. So you go Mannequin Cat before Gigantic, so I'm not locked out of summoning the End of Anubis. Get this out of my grave. Fun fact: if they mill this for you, it doesn't matter. So Mannequin Cat summons from grave. Spright starter, get blue, and I'm gonna just attack. I could have probably, there's probably a misplay. I could have probably gotten more damage if I just went to Gigantic first, like summon Pixies and stuff. But you know, it's whatever. Special this card main phase 2 and set Infirm in the Sulliak column. Now there's like nothing they can do. Normal summon Rhino, hard target, Elf. Realize that they can't Sulliak my Anubis because it's protected by Elf, chain Elf anyways, and yeah, they can't play the game, so cool. I have a series of replays of basically, I think these were consecutive games that I played against Tear. Where opponent opens Halfness, and yeah, we have Ash for that, so no playing on my turn for you. And now we just do our whole Spright combo thing. Keep going like that. They don't have any other interruptions. So this is gonna eventually end on Mannequin Cat and Starter for red. Now we got one of each negate, and I'm just gonna negate the terraforming. They're gonna chain Halfness, and I'm gonna bring back the red. And check this out. On the summon of Halfness Mannequin Cat, get out End of Anubis, negate. Attack over Spright Elf. Summon Diviner, go into Spright Elf of their own. And yeah, we're just gonna get that off the field because Mannequin Cat already did his job. My turn. This is normal summon Slot Frog, dump Ronin. Yeah. Appear to have them, so I'm just gonna summon Spright Elf and get it negated anyways, just to give the End of Anubis protection. Because at this point we have a Called by, a DD Crow, a Carrot, and an End of Anubis. Like they're literally not doing anything either, anyways. And then they're on Ishizu Tearlament Paleozoic. Yeah, so summon their Tearic monster and not be able to do anything. Good. Next match against Tear. Oh, another Halfness? Oh, look how often this Halfness is resolving. Anyway, we just opened Swap and Starter, which is, you know, we can't make both IP and Mannequin have this hand, but it'll be enough. We get out the Spright Red, summon the Spright Elf, summon back the Slot Frog, dump the other Slot Frog, and here I'm just gonna make the Mannequin Cat right now. Leave the zone open for Anubis and set the Smashers. They Soliak, and I'm just gonna get back the blue right now and own some Halfness. This is the game that prompted me to put Pixies in my deck. So anyway, they trigger their Tear cards, and I get Anubis out, and yeah, I'm not trying to deal with Pro Rhino right now, destroying my cards. So yeah, they're gonna enter battle phase and run over my Elf. So now, on my turn, they're actually gonna Soliak away their Halfness to negate my Anubis, trigger their Halfness. But I mean, you know, we do run 18 hand traps, so that ain't gonna work. Special Elf, Special Jet, and they're still dead, you know. Ultimately, I didn't need the Pixies because, you know, I run tons of non-engine, but you can see where Pixies would have been nice there, just to assert even more dominance. Well, this is gonna be an example of why you don't run the extra Gravekeeper cards in Tear. But anyway, this hand is balling. Triple hand traps, 2 starters. Maxi the Mudora, chain DD Crow on the Igido before it gets a chance to mill. Like just Chef's Kiss right here. I still got a Ghost Spell if they want to fuse. Anyway, so they place Gravekeeper traps. They actually have the tactics to draw 2 cards to try to unbreak themselves. They did not. They're gonna extremely loud incorrect buzzer sounds. So they're gonna swap. They're gonna Mannequin swap. I'm gonna Called by the Grave the Maxi. I'm gonna Chain Bell to their Mudora, so that it doesn't shuffle back the Maxi, so that it stays in the grave to get Called by and negated. Just Ishizu stuff, I guess. Next, Starter into blue. Blue get red. I was debating a long time. Like I have a line for game. If that set is nothing, and summons what rack swap. For some reason they at this they added a Kelbeck, right? Like at this entire time, like I was sending SWAT Frog. I'm trying to bait out the Kelbeck, honestly, because you know, I guess they just didn't want to use it, and so okay, cool. That's you're not gonna get any more opportunities to Kelbeck me, so I'm gonna gigantic into this, go into Cat Shark and just game you. Nice. Nice. There you have it. Contrary to popular belief, this deck is still good, even with the next meta changing selection pack. And I don't know. A thing that people will ask, I'm sure people will ask, is why no shifter? I promise you, it's not because I don't have like the UR master. I have plenty of stuff I can dismantle to craft this. I don't really want to see. The thing is, like, if this is nice going second, but going first, it's like not a hand trap I actually want to see, since it will actually hamper my ability to go into IP and Mannequin Cat. Like I said, yeah, if you resolve your combo and you go into IP and or Mannequin Cat for end of Anubis, like you don't need shifter. You're probably gonna win that game anyways. So like in that sense, like you don't even really want this going first, because that just hampers your ability to do that play. And it's, you know, people, you know, gone are the days of flu. If you use shifter now and people have Max C, they're gonna chain Max C to shifter anyway. So it's not like this even really prevents that, just because of Exo's stepsisters being a deck that loses the Max C and plays shifter. Oh yeah, if there's like an MCS or something, or like a tournament, I would slide this in going second. But like I don't want to see this going first. And unlike these others hand traps, like I feel like these are good going first and second still, because this Ghost Spell actively, stuff like Ghost Spell and Crow, like they will actively, even Ash, they will actively help me to combo against Tear going first. Like I said, against stuff like Halfness, which Shifter does that, but it also does stop my play. So just, yeah, it's weird, and I could be wrong on this theory. Like, you know, Shifter might just be cracked anyways, and like setting up a mediocre board with Shifters probably just as fine as just setting up your Mannequin Cat board. I just think it's not needed in this Spright build, and I don't see myself running Shifter and Spright necessarily in the future either, because that eventually we'll be getting Bestials, and I think Bestials are like the best hand traps against Tear, so I'd rather just run more Bestials than Shifter later on too. But I mean, it's not clearly it's not bad. Like, you can definitely just do this and it will be completely fine if you have Shifters. Like it's absolutely not incorrect to run Shifter. This is just my personal qualms with it.